start tearing your hair out of your head just thinking about cutting out characters from a photo? What if I told you that there is a way to create selections almost automatically? Sounds too good to be true? Stay with me till the end and I will show you how to make your life easier. Let's get started. Hi! Today, another basic, yet hugely important topic. We're going to talk about select and mask options. This is probably one of the most important tools in Photoshop, which shows the great power of Adobe's artificial intelligence. It is just incredible when it comes to cutting out characters from the background. So, without further ado, I suggest you to hit pause, grab a cup of coffee, and we'll get started. Let's start with information how to enter the select and mask window. As always in Photoshop, we have a couple of options. First, we can go to Select menu and find, believe it or not, Select and Mask. The second option you see right here. It's, of course, the keyboard shortcut. Alt-Control or Option-Command if you're using a Mac, and the letter R. Another way is to pick any selection tool and click on this option in the top menu. Okay, as you can see, we've been taken to a new Select and Mask tool space. Let's start with the menu you see at the top. It's going to be different depending on which tool you choose, but for now, we're going to focus on the two options at the very end. These are the Select Subject and Refine Hair buttons. By clicking the first option, we told the program to use the built-in artificial intelligence called Adobe Sensei to try to do the best job possible in creating a selection of the main element in the photo for us. Let's click and see how it looks. Great! As you can see, in this case Photoshop did a really great job. If you are using a recent version of Photoshop, you will find the hair correction option right next to it. After clicking on it, the program will once again use its digital brain to make some calculations to improve the edge of the hair even better. To better show you what's going on, let's for a moment check the Show Edge option. What you see right now is the area that Photoshop initially thought was the edge of the model's hair. As you can see, it did a pretty good job. Let's click on Refine Hair. You can see the difference right away. The area in which Photoshop looks for a hairline has been greatly expanded. The effect of this option can be really different, so we just have to experiment. For the purpose of this tutorial, we will not use it, and we will correct our selections manually. Undo with Ctrl-Command-Z. Okay, short break before we go any further. If you find this topic interesting, I'll give you a moment to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Every week, you will get from me a new portion of knowledge about photo editing. Okay? If this is ready, we are back to the tutorial. Now, let's take a look at the view options we have available in the upper right corner. Here, at the very top, we have view options. In other words, we choose the background on which the selection is going to present itself. Let's see what we have in this drop-down menu. First, there is the onion skin. In other words, transparency. Here, you can also set the percentage of opacity of the new view. Next, we have the merging ends, an animated dotted line showing the border of the selection. Next is the overlay, any color that can be defined in this window. By default, it will be bright red. Here, you can also choose the percentage of visibility. Another view is black and white background. I think there's no need to explain here. Black and white is a view in which what's selected is white and what is not selected is black. And finally, we have On Layers. Here, the background will be the layer below the layer on which we are currently working. We didn't have any layer underneath, so our background will be transparent. This option is especially useful if you cut out character and you know exactly on which new background you will place it. You can then work on the selection using the target background and see how everything composes. Sometimes you can save a lot of time, because it might turn out that a selection that didn't look good on black or white background looks great on a new target layer and there is no point in refining it any further. In the view settings, you will also find the option Show Edge. We've already talked about it. Below is the option Show Original. When you select it, you will see a clean background with a percentage of the selection. High quality preview is a high quality preview, of course. Okay, let's move on. We can skip presets. Below, we find two options: Color Aware and Object Aware. Both of them relate to the selection edges, and here again it's best to check both options and choose the one that gives better results. Before we move on to discuss more from this column, let's jump to the left side of the page and I will quickly demonstrate to you the tools available there. Okay, let's start from the top. The first tool is a classic quick selection tool. When you select it, you have a brush available, and here we have no additional complicated options. We can only choose the size of the brush and whether we want to add or subtract from the selection. These two icons at the top. How the quick selection tool works? Super simple. We paint on places we want to add to selection, or switch to minus and paint on places that we want to subtract from the selection. Program uses its artificial intelligence to find selection edge for us. Remember that instead of toggling between plus and minus in the options at the top, you can hold down the Alt Option key and reverse the effect of the tool. Great! Another weapon in our arsenal is the Edge Correction tool. We'll use this option to improve the selection of hair, animal fur and things like that. Here we can use the right-click menu to set the size and hardness. By painting on the edge, in this case the hair, we show the Photoshop where the edge is and let it do its magic to separate it from the background as best as possible. As you can see, this tool really can do wonders. The third tool is a basic brush. Set the appropriate size and hardness and paint over the areas you want to include in the selection, or switch to minus and remove unwanted areas. To change parameters of all mentioned tools, I highly recommend you to use a cool shortcut. Check this out. Hold Alt Option and right mouse button and drag left to decrease the size, right to increase it, down to increase the hardness, and up to decrease it. Look how cool is that! Great! Let's for a moment move to the second image and I will show you another tool used to select items. We go to Select and Mask option and reduce the visibility to, let's say, 20%. We select the Option Selection tool and create a selection. You can either use a rectangular to create a selection, or switch to lasso in the top menu and create any shape you like. Here at the top, you also have a choice of how the next selection you create will affect the one already created. The first option is Add. If I outline the second lens, of course it will be added to the selection. The second option is Subtract. As you probably guessed, it works exactly the opposite way. The last option is the Combine part. Let's create a selection of both lenses, switch to this option, and strong one of them. As you can see, selection remained active only where it overlapped. Alright, the next tool is the lasso and the rectangular lasso. It's super easy to do. Outline the areas you want to add to the selection, or outline with Alt Option key pressed to remove from the selection. The last two items are typical navigation tools. Magnifying glass is for zooming in and out, and the hand is for moving. To temporarily activate the hand, simply hold down the spacebar. After releasing it, you will go back to the last tool you were using. There we go! The left column is done. We are closer to the end now. We will go back to the picture with the girl and finish covering the options available on the right side. Edge detection, as the name suggests, detects edges. To see how it works, select the Show Edge option. With this slider, you can enlarge the selection by a specific number of pixels. With the Smart Radius option checked, the width of our selection will not be the same everywhere, but will be determined by the sharpness of the edge. As you can see, the selection is smaller when the edge is sharp, but much larger near the hair. Here again, depending on the photo, it is best to experiment. In this case, especially with hair, higher values work quite well, but in other areas they go way too deep. Okay, next we have the global adjustment section. I recommend using these sliders mainly for working with sharp edges. With hair, fur and other irregular shapes, they usually do more bad than good. But of course, it's worth checking it out. So, let's take a look at it one by one. The smoothing option is used to soften the edges. Let's zoom in on the model's face. As you can see, by increasing the smoothing value, the selection edge becomes much softer. Another option is feathering or blurring. Increasing this value blurs the selection edge. Here you will usually want to go with a very low value. The next position is contrast. To best show you how it works, let's switch to black and white view option. You can easily see that by raising the contrast slider, we make the light areas of the selection completely white and the dark areas completely black. The transition is very sharp, and if you switch back to overlay mode, you will see that the selection edge is super hard. I suggest being careful with this slider because a sharper edge can look super unnatural, especially when it comes to people. And the last option in this section is Edge Shift. The name probably speaks for itself. Dragging the slider to the left moves the selection edge inwards. In the other way, works exactly the opposite. I usually use a slight inside shift to minimize the light peaks at the edge of the selection. Just beneath that, we have two options. They are described quite clearly. Clear selection is to cancel the selection, and invert is to flip it. And now we have reached to the output options. First, the decontaminate color box. It often gives good results when enhancing hair edges. Use the slider below to set the intensity of the effect. Usually, 60 to 80% gives the best results. The last drop-down menu lets you choose how the selection you were working on should be exported to the layers panel. Should it be a selection alone, or maybe a mask, or maybe a new layer with a mask, or a totally separate document? Choose what works best for your project. I will just point out that if you use the contaminate colors, the selection and layer mask options will not be available. My congratulations! You have just completed the Select and Mask course. If you liked it, thank you in advance for the thumbs up. For more materials of this type, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel. Until the next one, bye!